The candlelight danced across the crystal glasses and polished silverware on our long oak dining table that night in our suburban Chicago home. Soft golden light from the chandelier mixed with the flickering flames, casting warm glows on the faces of family and close friends gathered for what was supposed to be my birthday celebration. The table was set with care, fresh flowers in the center, my favorite wine chilling, and a beautifully decorated cake waiting in the kitchen with my name in elegant script. Laughter filled the air, conversations overlapping in that easy rhythm of people who had known one another for years. But beneath it all, I felt like an observer in my own life. I sat near the head of the table in a soft emerald green dress, a color Michael had once said brought out my eyes.
He used to notice things like that.
Now he sat at the far end, next to my younger sister Olivia, his laugh ringing out a little too loudly at whatever she whispered to him. That laugh used to be mine alone. Deep,
Warm.
the one that made me feel chosen. My mother fussed beside me, passing plates of roasted chicken and garlic mashed potatoes, asking if anyone needed more wine. Across from me, David's eyes, Michael's longtime friend, darted between Olivia and Michael with a tightness around his mouth that told me he sensed the same tension I did. "Everyone, can I have your attention for a moment?" Olivia's voice cut through the chatter like a bell. She stood slowly, tapping her fork gently against her wine glass.
Ding. Ding.
The room quieted, expectant smiles turning toward her. She placed one hand lightly over her still flat stomach, her face glowing with that particular radiance some women get in early pregnancy. I wasn't planning to say anything yet, but tonight feels special. Surrounded by family. "I'm pregnant." Gasps rippled around the table. My mother covered her mouth, eyes wide with surprise and joy. "Olivia. Honey, that's wonderful news. Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Clapping started. A few cheers from cousins. Olivia's smile sharpened as she looked directly at me. "And the father is Michael." Silence crashed down heavier than any sound could. A fork clattered onto a plate. Michael's head stayed bowed, staring at his hands. My mother's napkin slipped from her fingers. David froze mid-reach for his glass. The air thickened, every breath audible. Olivia stood there, victorious, waiting for my reaction. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. My hands remained steady in my lap as I reached for my wine glass and rose slowly. All eyes shifted to me, the birthday girl, the wife, the sister. "Thank you for that announcement, Olivia," I said softly, my voice even, almost gentle. "It certainly is a surprise." A nervous chuckle escaped from someone down the table. "Since we're sharing big news tonight, I have something I'd like to add as well. But first, a toast." What would you feel in that moment? The weight of every stolen glance, every whispered phone call, every late night that stretched into excuses, all of it pressing down like an invisible hand on your chest. I smiled, raising my glass higher, letting the pause stretch just long enough for discomfort to settle in. But to truly understand how we reached this shattering point on my 35th birthday, we need to go back several months, to when the first cracks appeared in what I thought was a solid marriage. It started subtly, the way these things often do. Michael had always been the steady one, reliable real estate broker with a quick smile and easy charm that drew people in. We had built a comfortable life in our quiet neighborhood, the kind with tree-lined streets and backyard barbecues. No children yet, but we had talked about it, dreamed about it. Then things shifted. His tone changed, first sharper, more impatient when I asked about his day. "Deals are piling up. Laura, you want to keep this house, don't you?" he'd say, grabbing his keys without looking at me. The apologies for late nights at the office stopped coming altogether. Olivia began visiting more frequently around that time. My sister, 3 years younger, always the lively one with her bright laugh and effortless style. She'd drop by unannounced with bottles of wine or homemade cookies, playing the devoted sister. "You look tired, Laura. Everything okay at home?" She'd ask with concern that felt just a touch too probing. Or she'd fuss over Michael. "You sure you're eating enough? You seem stressed." I'd brush it off with a laugh. "We're fine. Just busy." But small moments chipped away at my certainty. I'd walk into the kitchen and find them huddled close, sharing a joke that died the instant I appeared. They'd smile too quickly, change the subject too smoothly. One evening, I came home earlier than usual from my graphic design work and found Olivia lounging on our living room sofa in one of Michael's button-down shirts, claiming she'd spilled coffee on her blouse during a visit and he'd offered her something dry to wear. "No big deal," Michael said casually from the doorway. Yet that blouse never appeared in our laundry basket later. My mother noticed too during one of her weekend visits. While chopping vegetables together, she asked quietly, "Don't you think Olivia's here an awful lot lately?" I forced a smile.
She just wants to help.
She knows work has been stressful. But her skeptical glance lingered, mirroring the doubt growing inside me. Even David picked up on it. He stopped by one afternoon to return Michael's toolbox, studying my face a beat too long at the door. He lowered his voice. "You holding up okay, Laura?" Michael's not quite himself these days, and Olivia seems to be around him constantly. My stomach twisted. "What are you saying?" He hesitated, then shook his head slightly. "Just watch your back. That's all." That conversation cracked something open in me. I stopped dismissing the unease as paranoia. Instead, I began observing, really observing, the way Michael flinched slightly whenever Olivia's name came up in conversation. The way her hand would linger on his arm a second too long during greetings. The way my gut twisted every time they stood closer than necessary. On the outside, I kept smiling, laughing at their shared stories, playing the gracious host. But inside, a quiet resolve took root. They assumed my silence meant weakness. They had no idea I was paying attention to every single detail. Lies. I've learned. Leave traces if you know where to look. Michael's phone started facing down on the counter when he returned home. Excuses multiplied. Client dinners. Property showings across town. Sudden emergencies. One night, while hanging his jacket, a crumpled receipt slipped out. Dinner for two at an upscale Italian place we hadn't visited together in over a year. Dated the same Thursday, he claimed to be stuck at the office until midnight. I folded it carefully and tucked it into a private notebook in my desk drawer. That notebook became my silent companion. A lipstick smudge on his collar, not my shade. A faint floral perfume clinging to his shirts that didn't match my own. A hotel key card tucked in his briefcase, wrapped hastily in a receipt. Small things, easily explained away unless you were looking for the pattern. And I was. Olivia grew bolder. She'd arrived before Michael some evenings, already pouring wine in our living room. "Just wanted to catch up," she'd say with her sweetest smile. Her compliments turned personal, her laughter louder when he entered a room. I watched stone-faced, nodding along. Then came the afternoon I found her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. Screen unlocked from her earlier call. A preview text from a contact saved simply as M glowed. "Can't stop thinking about last night. Same time tomorrow." I placed the phone back exactly as I'd found it. No need to read further. The confirmation sat heavy in my chest. The real pivot arrived a few days later while I was tidying the bedroom. Michael's laptop chimed with a notification. He'd left it open and unlocked. Unusual for him. The email was a confirmation for a follow-up appointment at a local fertility clinic. Not for any back issue, as he'd claimed months earlier. I froze, the pieces aligning with terrifying clarity. He'd told me the procedure was minor. for chronic discomfort. I'd driven him, waited in the lot, brought him home, and cared for him. But this email revealed the truth. It was a vasectomy confirmation. Successful per their records. No reversal scheduled. I copied the email quietly, adding it to my growing collection. Every evening after that, I maintained the facade, asking about his day, letting Olivia's giggles fill the space across our dinner table. But internally, I cataloged every betrayal. David called one night, voice low, saw Michael's car near that boutique hotel again. He wasn't alone. I think it was Olivia. Thank you, I replied simply. That was enough. In the mirror that night, my reflection didn't show rage or despair. It showed readiness. For too long, I'd allowed my quiet nature to be mistaken for blindness. But I remembered everything, every lie, every stolen moment. The right time was approaching, and my birthday dinner, which they'd eagerly helped plan, would be the stage. Back in the present, the silence at the table still held as I held my glass aloft. Olivia's smile had begun to falter. Michael's shoulders tensed. To unexpected truths, I said softly, meeting their eyes one by one. The explosion was only beginning. The weight of those words hung in the air as I lowered my glass, but didn't sit down yet. Around the table, forks remained untouched, eyes wide with anticipation and discomfort. My mother reached instinctively for my hand under the table, her fingers cold. David gave me a subtle nod of support from across the way. Olivia shifted her weight, one hand still protectively over her stomach, her earlier glow dimming under the scrutiny. To fully grasp why my response carried such calculated calm, we must linger a little longer in those preceding months, the slow accumulation of proof that transformed suspicion into certainty. After finding that fertility clinic email, something fundamental shifted inside me. I no longer questioned my instincts. I trusted them completely. The notebook in my desk drawer thickened with entries, dates, locations, inconsistencies in Michael's stories. One particularly telling incident came during a family barbecue we hosted in our backyard a few weeks before the birthday. The late summer evening was warm, string lights twinkling overhead, burgers sizzling on the grill. Olivia arrived in a flowing sundress, her hair loose and carefree. She volunteered to help Michael at the grill, their heads bent close as they laughed over some private joke. I watched from the kitchen window, my chest tight. When I brought out more plates, their conversation halted abruptly. Later that night, after guests left, I found a delicate gold bracelet on the patio near where they'd stood, Olivia's, engraved with her initials. She claimed to have lost it weeks earlier. Must have slipped off, she said lightly when I handed it back. But the way her fingers brushed Michael's arm as she thanked him lingered in my mind. Financial traces emerged too. Our shared credit card statements showed unfamiliar charges, lunches at cozy cafes downtown, a weekend stay at a bed and breakfast 2 towns over, items Michael dismissed as client entertainment or team building. I cross-referenced dates with his calendar, noting conflicts. One receipt for 2 movie tickets to a romantic comedy we had never seen together sealed another layer of doubt. Nights became my time for reflection. Lying beside Michael as he slept soundly, I'd replay conversations, searching for the exact moment the emotional distance had widened into a chasm. We had discussed having children early in our marriage, both excited by the idea. Then, about 9 months ago, Michael mentioned discomfort from what he described as a sports injury flare-up. The minor procedure followed shortly after. He insisted I wait in the car, downplayed the recovery. Nothing to fuss over, he'd said, wincing slightly as he settled on the couch with ice packs. I had believed him, brought soup, adjusted pillows. Now that clinic email burned in my memory, successful vasectomy, Follow-up sperm count 0.
Permanent.
The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was the deception layered upon deception. If he had been honest about the vasectomy, perhaps as a mutual decision to delay or forego children due to his work stress, I could have understood. But the lie about the reason, combined with the affair, painted a picture of deliberate concealment. Olivia's behavior intensified in parallel. She began texting Michael more openly, even in group chats, using inside references that excluded me. "Remember that hilarious thing from last week?" she'd write, followed by laughing emojis. During one Sunday dinner at our mother's house, she sat beside him, their knees touching under the table, a detail I caught when reaching for the salt. My mother frowned but said nothing at the time. David's warnings grew more pointed in private calls. "I'm not trying to stir trouble, Laura." But I saw them together again near the riverfront park. They looked intimate. Each confirmation added weight to my folder of evidence: printed emails, photos of receipts, timestamps from shared location apps I had quietly enabled on Michael's phone for safety reasons. Through it all, I maintained appearances flawlessly. Dinners together, holidays, casual weekends, smiling,
Nodding.
contributing to conversations. They interpreted my composure as obliviousness or weakness. Olivia's confidence swelled. She grew bolder in her touches, her lingering gazes. Michael became more distant at home. Our intimate moments rare and mechanical. One pivotal evening, about a month before the birthday, I discovered the sonogram. Olivia had visited earlier that day, leaving her purse on the hallway bench in her usual rush. A corner of white paper protruded. Curiosity, and something deeper, prompted me to peek. It was an ultrasound image. Olivia's name printed clearly in the corner along with the recent date. On the back, in familiar handwriting, "For M, our little miracle. Can't wait." I sat on the hallway bench, the image cool against my fingers. This wasn't abstract suspicion anymore. A life existed, conceived in secrecy, while they sat across from me at my dinner table, shared my home, ate my food. The realization brought no tears, only a profound stillness. I placed the sonogram in the folder, closing it with deliberate care. That folder represented more than proof, it was my anchor. In it lay the medical records confirming the vasectomy's success, the lack of any reversal or failure noted. Michael had never followed up with the required post-procedure tests, apparently assuming the procedure hadn't taken or choosing ignorance. But the records didn't lie. Biologically, he could not father a child. This knowledge didn't spark vengeful joy. It granted clarity and leverage. For weeks afterward, I let them continue their charade, planning my birthday dinner with enthusiasm, Olivia suggesting decorations, Michael handling the guest list. They had no inkling the stage they prepared would expose them. Returning to the birthday table, the tension had thickened further during my pause. Olivia's hand dropped from her stomach.
Laura.
"What are you doing?" she asked, voice wavering slightly. Michael finally lifted his head, eyes meeting mine with a mix of fear and defensiveness. I smiled gently, just ensuring everyone understands the full picture before we celebrate further. The room waited, breaths held, as the story of my quiet gathering of truth prepared to culminate. As the silence stretched at the dinner table, I could feel the shift in dynamics, the way family members leaned forward involuntarily, drawn by the promise of revelation. My voice remained measured, each word chosen with precision. Before I continue my toast, there's something important about Michael's health history that everyone should know. Michael's face paled visibly under the warm lights. Olivia's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing her features. To appreciate the gravity of what I was about to unveil, let's delve deeper into those final weeks of discovery, when the evidence became undeniable and my plan crystallized. After securing the sonogram, I revisited the medical portal using our shared login credentials, one Michael had set up years ago for convenience with insurance claims. The records were stark. Vasectomy performed 8 months prior. Confirmed successful via follow-up lab results showing 0 sperm count. No reversal procedure listed. No complications noted beyond standard recovery. I printed everything meticulously, cross-referencing dates with our personal calendar. The procedure had occurred shortly after Michael claimed a back strain from moving furniture. I remembered driving him to the outpatient clinic, sitting in the waiting area with a magazine while he underwent what he described as a quick fix. Upon returning home, he had been irritable but not overly pained, brushing off my offers of help after the first day.
Infine.
Laura, let's not make this a big production. Looking back, his avoidance of follow-up appointments made perfect sense in the context of the affair. He likely hoped the procedure had failed or simply didn't want confirmation.
Parallel to this,
Olivia's pregnancy symptoms began showing subtly at first. She complained of fatigue during visits, declined wine with a knowing smile, wore looser clothing. When she announced cravings for specific foods only I knew she disliked before, the timeline aligned too perfectly with the affair's escalation. One afternoon, while helping her with a minor home project, I noticed a prenatal vitamin bottle in her bag. She quickly zipped it shut, claiming they were general supplements. David became an unwitting but valuable ally during this period. Over coffee at a neutral cafe, he shared more observations without prompting. Michael canceled our golf game twice last month to meet a client. Both times, I spotted Olivia's car nearby. We didn't speculate aloud, but the implications were clear. I thanked him quietly, appreciating his discretion. Emotionally, the process tested me profoundly. Nights brought waves of grief, not explosive sobbing, but a deep, aching quiet as I mourned the marriage I thought we had. Mornings, however, brought renewed focus. I exercised more, journaled my thoughts to maintain clarity, and even sought a single confidential session with a therapist to process without revealing details. The therapist's words echoed, "Your calm is your power. Don't let betrayals steal that too." Socially, maintaining the facade required discipline. At work, colleagues remarked on my increased focus. At family gatherings, I laughed at Olivia's anecdotes while internally noting every micro-expression between her and Michael. Once, during a movie night at our house, their hands brushed repeatedly on the shared popcorn bowl, a small intimacy that spoke volumes. The folder grew comprehensive, digital screenshots of texts accidentally mirrored to our family tablet, Olivia forgetting to log out. Location pings showing overlapping times at the boutique hotel. Even a discarded pregnancy test wrapper from our guest bathroom trash that matched Olivia's timeline. Each item reinforced the central impossibility. If Michael's vasectomy was successful, and records confirmed it was, the child Olivia carried could not be his biologically. This wasn't about public humiliation for its own sake. It was about reclaiming agency. They had assumed my kindness equaled gullibility. My love equaled forgiveness, without consequence. The birthday dinner presented the perfect confluence, an audience of loved ones. The element of surprise on their terms turned against them, and the undeniable medical truth as the ultimate equalizer. Psychologically, I prepared for every possible reaction: denial, anger,
tears.
Legally, I had consulted a family law attorney anonymously weeks earlier to understand implications for potential divorce, asset division, and any paternity questions. Everything stayed above board, grounded in facts. By the week of the birthday, the plan felt solid. I approved their suggestions for the menu and seating, letting them believe they controlled the narrative. Olivia even helped pick my dress color, ironically choosing the emerald green that now symbolized my quiet resolve. Back at the table, I continued speaking. Michael, do you recall that procedure last winter, the one you described as addressing some discomfort? The vasectomy. A few gasps escaped around the table. My mother stiffened beside me. You asked me to wait outside. Remember? I drove you home, handled the prescriptions, made sure you rested. Michael's mouth opened, but no words emerged at first.
Laura.
This isn't the time. I raised a hand gently. Actually, it is the perfect time. Because according to the medical records, and I verified them carefully, a successful vasectomy like yours means natural conception is no longer possible without reversal. Which never happened. Turning to Olivia, whose face had drained of color, I added softly, so if you're pregnant, darling, the father can't be Michael. Perhaps it's time to reconsider who it really is. Chairs scraped as people shifted in shock. My mother whispered, "Oh my God." David set his glass down hard. Olivia stammered, "Michael,
You said.
you told me it didn't work." Michael stood abruptly, face flushed. "I didn't know. I thought. But you did betray me," I interrupted calmly. "With my own sister. In our home. While I trusted you both." The room erupted into overlapping voices. Questions flying. Yet I remained standing, glass still raised, feeling the first true breath of freedom in months. The chaos at the table intensified, questions overlapping. My mother demanding explanations from both Michael and Olivia. Cousins exchanging stunned glances. I lowered my glass slowly, but stayed on my feet, observing the scene with a detachment that surprised even me. This was the bung no I had anticipated, the explosion of truth after months of dawn intention. To understand why this moment felt liberating rather than destructive, consider the psychological journey of those final preparations leading up to the dinner. With a folder complete, I spent quiet evenings reviewing its contents. Not for rage, but for closure. Each piece, receipts, emails, the sonogram, represented stolen moments that had eroded our marriage. I grieved privately. Long walks in the neighborhood park where I replayed happier memories of early courtship. The proposal at the lakefront. Lazy Sundays cooking together. Those memories now carried the sting of contrast against recent betrayals. Humor emerged unexpectedly in dark moments. Once, while alone, I chuckled bitterly at the irony. Michael, the man who meticulously planned real estate deals, had overlooked basic post-vasectomy follow-up. Olivia, always the dramatic one in our family, had scripted her pregnancy announcement like a soap opera climax, unaware of the plot twist awaiting her. I confided minimally. A single trusted friend outside the circle listened without judgment, advising emotional safety nets like securing personal finances and documenting everything. Legally, Illinois laws on marital assets and potential paternity disputes favored transparency, which aligned with my approach. No dramatic confrontations beforehand. The public setting ensured accountability without isolation. The day of the birthday arrived with deceptive normalcy. I woke early, prepared coffee, exchanged routine pleasantries with Michael. He seemed distracted, checking his phone frequently. Olivia texted excitedly about arriving early to help set up. I replied affirmatively. My response is warm. Inside, my heart steadied like still water before a storm. As guests arrived, the house filled with familiar energy, hugs, compliments on the decor, toast to my health. Michael played the attentive husband, refilling glasses, carving the roast. Olivia glowed, her hand occasionally resting on her abdomen. I moved through it all gracefully, accepting gifts, posing for photos, all while sensing the undercurrent of their shared glances. Seating unfolded as planned, Michael and Olivia near each other, to chat easily, my mother beside me for comfort. The meal progressed with surface cheer, stories of past birthdays, work anecdotes, light teasing. Underneath, my notebook's contents waited in a drawer upstairs, ready if needed, though I relied primarily on memory and the medical facts. When Olivia stood for her announcement, the timing felt almost predestined. Her words landed like a carefully aimed arrow. My response, measured, toast-like, had been rehearsed internally countless times, adjusting for tone to maximize impact without hysteria.
Now.
Amid the uproar, Michael attempted damage control. Everyone, please, this is private. Laura, we can discuss this later. His voice cracked with desperation. My mother turned on him sharply. Private? You made it public when you got involved with your wife's sister. And now a baby? Explain yourself. Olivia sank into her chair, clutching her purse like a lifeline. Michael told me the procedure failed. He said we didn't need to worry. Tears welled in her eyes. But whether from guilt or fear of exposure remained unclear. David interjected firmly. This isn't about blame right now. But Laura deserves honesty after everything. I finally spoke again, addressing the group. I didn't plan drama tonight, but honesty demanded it. Michael and Olivia chose secrecy. I chose truth. Pausing for effect, I added, to family bonds that withstand betrayal or reveal their fragility. I took a deliberate sip, then sat. The aftermath unfolded in waves. My mother pulled Olivia aside for hushed words, her disappointment palpable. Cousins offered awkward support, some excusing themselves politely. Michael approached me hesitantly.
Laura.
I swear I thought it was possible. The timing. I made a terrible mistake. Your mistake wasn't just the surgery misunderstanding, I replied evenly. It was choosing deception over our marriage. He had no rebuttal. Olivia approached next, voice small. Sister, I never meant to hurt you like this. It just happened. Her hand hovered near her stomach. I met her gaze steadily. What hurts most is the trust you both shattered. The baby deserves truth about its father, whoever that may be. As the evening wound down, the candles burned lower, casting long shadows on faces marked by shock and reflection. No one touched dessert. The cake remained untouched in the kitchen, a symbol of celebrations derailed. With the revelations laid bare, the dinner party dissolved into quiet departures. Guests hugged me tightly, murmuring apologies and offers of support, their expressions a mix of sympathy and lingering disbelief. My mother stayed longest, helping clear a few plates while shooting disappointed glances toward Michael and Olivia. I raised you both better, she said softly to Olivia before leaving. David lingered near the door, offering to drive me anywhere if needed. You've got this. Laura. Call if you want company later. Michael stood awkwardly by the window, avoiding eye contact with most. Olivia sat alone at the table's edge, arms wrapped protectively around herself. The earlier smugness replaced by vulnerability. The room, once alive with laughter, now echoed with the heavy quiet of exposed secrets. I moved methodically, gathering my clutch, slipping on my light coat, straightening a few chairs. No rush, no tears. The calm that had carried me through the announcement held firm, rooted in months of preparation and self-reflection. This wasn't revenge in the traditional sense, it was restitution of dignity. They had underestimated my capacity for quiet observation and strategic timing. Michael finally spoke as I reached for my keys.
Laura, please.
Can we talk? Alone. His voice held a plea, eyes reflecting shame and perhaps genuine regret. I messed up badly. The vasectomy. I should have double-checked. And Olivia. It was wrong. I paused at the doorway, turning to face him one last time. The affair hurt. The lies hurt more. But discovering the medical truth gave me power back. You both assumed I'd collapse. Instead, I chose clarity. Pausing, I added softly, "The baby changes things legally and emotionally. Get tested properly. Be honest for once." Olivia stood then, tears streaking her cheeks. "I love you,
Sister.
this wasn't supposed to happen this way." Her words carried sincerity mixed with self-preservation. "Love doesn't betray like this," I responded gently but firmly. "Figure out your path. I need space to rebuild mine." Stepping into the cool night air outside our suburban home, the stars overhead felt like distant, impartial witnesses. The neighborhood slept peacefully, porch lights glowing, leaves rustling in a light breeze. I inhaled deeply, filling my lungs with the crispness that signaled autumn's approach. This night, meant to mark another year in a fracturing marriage, instead became the threshold to freedom. Driving away alone, the house shrinking in the rearview mirror, memories surfaced unbidden, but without their former sting. Early dates with Michael, family vacations including Olivia, the dreams we'd shared. Those chapters closed now. Ahead lay practical steps, consulting the attorney formally, separating finances thoughtfully, perhaps selling the house filled with too many ghosts. Psychologically, the healing would take time, therapy sessions, rebuilding social circles, rediscovering personal passions like my graphic design projects that had taken a back seat. Friends like David offered steady support. Family dynamics would evolve, strained but potentially mendable with honesty. The central message lingered: betrayal tests character, but response defines it. I chose silence not as weakness, but as strategy.
Truth.
Delivered calmly, in the right moment, carries more weight than screams ever could. Michael and Olivia faced consequences, social judgment, legal questions around paternity, internal reckoning. The child deserved transparency above all. Pulling into a quiet overlooked spot by the lake, I parked and watched the water ripple under moonlight. No bitterness remained, only acceptance and quiet hope. What would you have done in my place? Confront immediately, endure silently, or wait for the perfect stage? The question echoes long after the candles are extinguished. This birthday gift to myself was the ultimate one. Autonomy reclaimed. Life, once constrained by deception, now stretched open with possibility. The stars above seemed brighter somehow, promising new beginnings after the storm. And in that moment, breathing freely for the first time in months, I smiled, not in triumph, but in quiet resilience.